Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. Some time ago, I visited Auschwitz-Birkenau, the German Nazi concentration and extermination camps built and operated by the Third Reich in Polish areas annexed during World War II. It's about 37 miles west of Krakow. Separated by just a few miles, these camps are sometimes known as Auschwitz I and Auschwitz II. Spanning the entrance to Auschwitz I is the awful and deceptive slogan, Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free, made by prison laborers. The entrance to Auschwitz II became famous after Schindler's List, the 1993 epic black and white movie directed by Steven Spielberg, where we see the train tracks enter the camp through an arch in the middle of a long red brick building, with rail spurs then leading to what was literally the end of the line for thousands. To the right were the gas chambers and crematoria, to the left, the barracks. The trains with their precious human cargo would arrive in the dead of night, when most of Poland was asleep. Once inside the camp, a gate secured the arch, and the train disgorged its heartbroken inhabitants from the dark and comfortless closed boxcars, where they had been crammed in like sardines, often without food or water for several days, weak with hunger, cold, and illness. Exiting from the trains, prisoners were lined up in front of a Nazi doctor to be examined. With the simple movement of his index finger, the doctor would then point to the right or to the left in an apparently arbitrary manner. One group would be led away in one direction, the others in another. Families were torn apart as men were separated from wives and children forever through the movement of someone's finger. Prisoners considered unfit for work, including young children, the elderly, pregnant women, and the infirm, were sent off in one direction and immediately ordered to strip and take showers, little suspecting that the bathhouses to which they marched were disguised gas chambers. Once inside, the prisoners were exposed to poison gas, and within 20 minutes they were dead. These individuals, considered unfit for work, were never officially registered as Auschwitz inmates, making it impossible to calculate the number of lives lost at the camp. Those prisoners who were led away from the train in the opposite direction initially escaped the gas chambers, to be housed in barracks not so much designed to house people as to destroy them. They were subjected to hard labor, but thousands died from the daily struggle for survival in brutal living conditions, forced labor, infections, diseases, starvation, torture, arbitrary executions, and medical experiment. I was profoundly moved by my visit to Auschwitz. Groups of us visitors moved around the site that day in eerie silence. It felt as if we were walking in the ashes of the dead. It was overwhelming to think that about 1 million Jewish men, women, and children lost their lives there, not to mention many Poles, Gypsies, and Russian prisoners of war. The image of a Nazi doctor separating men from women, children from parents, old from young, friend from friend, with the simple movement of his index finger, made me think of the warning that Jesus gave in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 25. He said that one day all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates sheep from goats, for eternal life or punishment. But God's judgment is not arbitrary. It isn't based on the appearance or ability. He will separate us on the basis of whether or not we are Christ followers who are trusting him for eternal salvation. Jesus promised Nicodemus, the curious Pharisee, that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. Does this sound too simple? Consider the words of Blaise Pascal, the 17th century French mathematician, physicist, inventor, writer, and Christian philosopher. Blaise Pascal said, "If I believe in God and life after death, and you do not, and if there is no God, we both lose when we die. However, if there is a God, you lose and I gain everything." So let me repeat that. If I believe in God and life after death, and you do not, and if there is no God, we both lose when we die. However, if there is a God, you lose, and I gain everything. Auschwitz reminded me that Jesus died in our place, so that by believing in him we might receive the gift of eternal life and not perish. He did for us what we could not do for ourselves. The abundant life here and in eternity is not earned by good works. It's received by faith. It's not about what we have done for God, but what he has done for us. That way we can't boast, and God gets the credit. That awful and deceptive slogan at Auschwitz, Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free, was a blatant lie. And the teaching that our good works make us free from God's judgment is also a lie. We can't free ourselves. Only God can make us truly free, and he does so when we trust him to give us life. Are you trusting in him? And thank you for tuning in to Village Church Connections.